I told you, secrets to successful sales was hidden in Proverbs. In fact, he who answers before listening, well, that is his folly and his shame. Proverbs 18:13. And Proverbs goes on further later in Proverbs in 17:28 and says, even fools are thought wise if they just keep silent. They're even thought to be discerning if they hold their tongue. Edward Allison, welcome to our conversation about the Bible in business. You've made more sales than most people in the past couple of years building your business. What do you take out of Proverbs? He who answers before listening, it's his folly. What do you take out of that with regards to how you do sales in your business and how we've grown the sales in your business as well?
I think I stopped trying to sell to people and started listening to what they needed or what they wanted to communicate. And the more I stopped talking and listened, the more I was able to tailor what I do for them.
It's interesting that many of us have got a product or service. People usually don't want to buy everything that we've got within that service or within that product. They actually want either their version of the product or service, or they're very intrigued by certain elements.
Yes.
How do you, and I think what a lot of people do is try and sell everything and mismatch the customer, because the customer hears like, yeah, I get that and I get that and I want it, but the rest of it I'm not that interested in. And then they feel in this like 50-50 thought inside of themselves. Like, do I or don't I? Because I don't really need that bit there, but I really want this bit here. And then that often takes salespeople to become persuasive or manipulative or whatever else to try and convert the customer. What sort of ways do you run a sales meeting, Edward, where you actually get to find which of the bits people particularly want from you, and what's the stuff they're going to get but isn't particularly important?
Well, I ask questions and then I shut up. And so there are questions that I often use, maybe invite people to tell me about their journey. And so in telling me their journey and telling me what's missing and telling me what they're looking for, they are drawing circles or highlighting the bits of my business that will be most of interest to them. Assuming I can provide a service that is in accordance with their needs. And so there may be the things that I think are nice and shiny about my business that I want to convince them is so brilliant that that's what they need. And maybe that's what I used to do. And now I'm more interested in them telling me the bits that are missing from their life and what they could do with some support with. And it's not dishonest of me because it's the truth, but yet how I then break down and explain how my business works will be in accordance and shaped. My delivery will be shaped by their needs. That makes sense.
So your first bit is to find out about why are they interested in, right? What are they interested in? And I think that the starting point of all of this for most business owners is, as a business owner, if you've got a product that solves a problem for people, you'd be nuts to think that what you can do solves a problem for everybody. I'd suggest we need to get narrower. I mean, Edward, as I look at your business, most clients are female. In your business, most are over the age of 25 or over the age of 30. Actually, if I look at your business, like it gets quite narrow. And so, if you can find a narrow group of people, a niche, and you know that your product is going to be of benefit to a lot of people within that niche, really, I think what we need to do is go and find out all of the reasons, like what they're stuck with. Ask questions. What they want to achieve, ask questions. And then the thing that I like to do is then ask permission. Would it be okay if I share with you what I do? And you know what? I've never had anybody say no to me.
I'm the same. I do the same thing. I just have a conversation with someone and ask them a little bit about themselves. And then, just like you've mentioned, I say, would you mind if I tell you a little bit more about myself and what it is that I do and how it works, weight loss with Edward, how it works. And they say, yeah, great. And then I've already got the information that shapes how I return an explanation about what it is that I do. I think of it like if someone comes into a car dealership and you are raving and ranting about how powerful this car is and how fast it goes and how many mountains it can traverse, but they were coming in to say that I want something safe on the freeway for my children, you're pushing the wrong thing. But if you just listen to them first, they would have told you, I'm looking for something that's secure for my children on the freeway. If you just ask some questions and listen and learn about them first. So it would change what you are offering, but it's the same vehicle.
Because it's interesting, so many Christian business owners and entrepreneurs I meet with talk about sales as almost a thing that makes them feel dirty. That they feel like they have to be manipulative and overly persuasive and maybe take money off people for things they don't want or don't need. And there's a whole series of perceptions. And if we were to call it not sales, we would just call it something else, right? If we were to call it serving,
yeah,
all good Christians are called to serve. So serving somebody who's in a degree of pain with a problem, serving them with a solution where all we do is describe it by giving them their words back again. So if somebody, Edward, you do weight loss coaching. So if somebody was to say to you, oh, well, my daughter's getting married in 12 months' time. I really want to be 3 dress sizes smaller by then. Blah, 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 whatever it may well be. I'd like my husband to go on this journey with me as well, so we look good in the photographs. And you can write all of these cues that people are giving you down. And then as we describe the service, well, what I do is best suited to people like you. You know, you're looking for a goal in 12 months' time for your daughter's wedding. And I've got one other client who did that recently, and maybe even there's a picture of my other client and so on and so forth. Actually, all we're doing is we're making the purchasing decision easy for somebody by just saying to them what I do actually can help in their words. And as long as we honestly can deliver on that promise, yeah. Right? We're not selling a Fiat as a Ferrari and charging Ferrari money and then upsetting people. We're not ripping people off. We're honestly doing that. I actually think that serving like that is biblical. I mean, Jesus didn't describe God's work in a one-size-fits-all model to everybody. He actually spoke about God in many different ways with many different people, depending upon context. Washing somebody's feet, all the way through to flipping tables upside down in a church, to whatever. He did this big breadth of describing God's work, and I think that all Christians should start to embrace this. Selling, when done well, is actually a privilege and a delight, and a serving in his name is not actually manipulative like the rest of the world maybe portrays it to be.
No, I completely agree. And I think speaking to someone in their language so that they can understand you and you can then help them in the way that you help people is just learning to communicate effectively. It's not dishonest. So if the 81-year-old lady with 2 broken hips comes to me and says, I need to lose weight because my hips are sore and I don't want to die soon, I want to live longer. Had I not listened to her story and she was just a voice on the phone and I had said, you'll be running marathons and you'll feel very sexy, it would have been the inappropriate information about the service that I run for someone at her age and stage and headspace in life. So I would simply be translating my service into her language of, well, of course, mobility gets easier when there's less weight on your joints. I would be talking about the subjects that are of interest to her, There's no dishonesty in that. There will be a concept like weight loss. Now, whether that's to be more attractive, to live longer, to not have presenting symptoms of type 2 diabetes, to be able to tie your own shoelaces, not have someone to do it because you're too big to do it. These are all different things that come around when you carry less weight. But like you say, some people don't want to wear breathing apparatus when they go to bed at night because of their size. Other people want to be able to play with their kids in the park. Other people want to start running half marathons for charity. If I don't know that about the individual, then I'm guessing and putting my version of what it is that I do to them. But if I listen first, then I can explain to them that their needs can be met, not just, so it's not coming from me and what I insist is the service. It's actually telling them what they, and there's no dishonesty in that. They're the same thing. It's just, yeah.
And I want people to hold on to, in business books, you hear about B2B selling, B2C selling, so on and so forth, right? There's all these different acronyms that get used. So business to business, business to consumer. What we're talking about here works when I'm negotiating a multi-million coaching package for a very large corporation, which actually is a negotiation. It's a dance. The same thing works because the reality is all those acronyms don't actually exist. The only thing that really exists is what I call H2H, human to human. Right? And that is the sales process. Whether you're looking to sell a tractor to a farmer, or whether you're looking to sell baked beans into a new chain of supermarkets, you're still selling through a human being. You're still asking questions. You're still finding out what their wants and needs are, what their blocks are, so on and so forth. And you're just giving them all the information they need to make the best possible decision for themselves. Now, Edward, the interesting thing about this is one of the topics in sales that often comes up is, what about objection handling? I don't get very many objections in my sales processes ever when I just ask questions. Probably the only objection I ever get is, I can't afford it. That's probably the only objection I ever get, and that's quite rare. If people find themselves like asking somebody if they want to sign up now, then the person starts objecting. Oh, well, I don't know if it's the right time. Does my great Aunt Bessie approve? Is it the right color? I don't know, all those different things. What advice do you have for somebody to help themselves not become manipulative and persuasive overly then, in order to get them around the objection?
I mean, again, you could ask more questions. Let them dig deeper, not in an invasive way. Help them to express themselves, and if need be, I wouldn't push the sale. I wouldn't force the sale. I would be, if it's not for them, it's not for them.
So I normally find that objections happen when we've rushed the asking questions bit at the front, right? Because all an objection in a sale is what you've presented to me doesn't match what it is I want to buy. That's all an objection is. It's a friction point. And that means that if you've presented it in a generic way, you're likely to get objections because, as you say, you're trying to sell the car to go over mountains when somebody wants a small car to keep their kids safe in a city, right? You're selling the same thing in two different, in a way that's mismatched somebody. So if I get objections, I often kind of, when I get to the end of the part where I describe what I do to them in their language, I often ask them a question like, when would you like to start? Would today or next week be okay? And people often then come to you and they're like, oh yeah, actually now's really good. Or maybe they say another point in time in the future. I'll say, cool, I'll follow up with you. But I honestly don't think we need to be twisting people's arms. Everything I've always found with twisting people's arms is you get an awkward client, who doesn't value the product or service really, and they don't give you referrals and testimonials and whatever else. Or you get a client who tries to pull the plug on you later at the time when you least need it, or so many other things. And I just think we've got to be careful with putting our desire for cash as a business owner, for income, to one side, and ensure that actually what we want is not cash. We actually want high quality cash. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we actually want.
Yeah, people tell me and compliment me, not all the time, but it has happened where people come on board with my support and they give the reason that there wasn't a hard sell done to them, that they don't experience that from me. Also, when people choose to leave the service, usually there's things going on in life, be it financial or life stuff. They get no persuasion to stay on board from me. I just say, you know where I am. If you ever fancy a chat, I'm only a phone call away. You know, we'll be sad to see you go. Just know you're always welcome back. They come.
That's it. So really, if we feel like the money in the sale is so important to us, we have to go and make the sale. We're actually forcing ourselves then to become persuasive and manipulative. But we're actually talking about this is an evidence of other problems in the business. So I had a sales meeting this morning with a guy, and we had a great chat for 45 minutes. And I got to this, when would you like to start? Because he's like, I'd like to be your number one client, Rob. Fantastic. When would you like to start? And he said, oh, October. It's like, okay, cool. How come October? It's like a random time of the year to say start. It's not like at the end of summer or just in the new year, or there's usual. October's quite a specific random. Oh, no, I've got this exam happening for this qualification and this exam happening for another qualification. I want to study. I've got 14 weeks from now. And then I want to start in October. Like, fantastic. Would it be okay if I just check in with you in 4 or 6 weeks' time, just to come and like have 10 minutes with you and make sure you're still on track to get those exams passed? Like, we can go and fill in that time with people and just check back in. And people will remember you. And so what if he's fobbing me off and October really doesn't actually ever want to start at all? I'll still have built a great relationship with somebody, because I'll call him every 4 or 6 weeks in the next, between now and October, just for 10 minutes. He'll think I'm great because I haven't pushed him or twisted his arm or made him feel uncomfortable. I've just cared. And my experience is that one day somebody will say to this guy, oh, I'm thinking about being coached by that Rob Yates guy. And he'll say, yeah, I thought about that once, but I actually couldn't afford it, so I didn't go ahead with it. But he's quite expensive, but he's really good. And he's such a nice guy. I recommend you spend time with him.
Yes. I think
really we need a higher volume of conversations that we're having, so that we don't have to rely on to this one conversation this week to pay the home loan. We've actually got to have 5 or 10 conversations this week. So if 2 or 3 end up saying October, we're like, good, you do you, and I'm here for you.
Yeah. I think scarcity thinking, as we've discussed that term a few times, that the fear of not making enough money, of not making enough sales, and sometimes force us to act in ways that are not aligned with our ethics. Where if there was someone that wasn't the ideal client, you would take them because it's money and you're desperate for money because you have to pay your bills, is not the same client as they are skipping with joy that we're about to get to work together. And I would like to think that these days, I would say, well, if now's not the right time, then it's not the right time. Brilliant. You know, we can always have a chat again, whatever works for you, however I can help, and leave that on good terms and not force the sale in any way. And make sure that there's enough inquiries and enough people that are delighted to come on board, that they're never, ever, I've never made a hard sale in 18 months.
Hmm.
I,
I think there's a fair chance to say, if you can't afford to walk away from the deal as the business owner, you maybe shouldn't be trying to make the deal. And that's not to say that your business is not a good product or service provider to this other person or business. It's to say that your energy and your attitude is completely wrong, and it will cause you, if you can't afford to not make the deal, and then you actually have to feel like you have to twist it to make it, hard sell to make it, all you're doing is compromising almost guaranteeably your faith, and therefore you're compromising any support from God at the same point in time. And so if you can't afford to walk away from the deal, well, maybe we need to try and sell something else. Maybe we need to go and find another customer who's more easy to deal with. Maybe we need to get somebody else to do it on our behalf, because in real terms, I don't believe that God supports us if we run against him.
Yeah. The thought of supporting someone that I have to drag into my business and force them to try and take some advice, it goes against everything that I do anyway. And if I was selling windows, I'd be the same. If I can see discomfort on their face as they sign in the contract and it's genuine, they're not happy, that whole interaction would not be going well. And probably the complaints that would follow, or the uncomfortable meetups, whatever it would be. And I don't want any of that in my life.
That's it.
Or for me or them. For me or them.
That's it. And so if you're out there and you need to make more sales as a Christian business owner or entrepreneur, the first thing I want to encourage you to do is go and find more people to sell to more often.
Yes.
So you get to practice, number one, because you only get good at something if you repeat it. It's why we should pray consistently, because you get better at praying the more you do of it, right? So practice. You don't feel pushed to make a sale if you've got 9 other sales calls this week, because you've got 9 other opportunities to get more volume to come through. But also go and work out, how am I going to ask questions of people to get them to sell themselves on my services and tell me what it is they exactly want, and allow me to package it for them perfectly, as opposed to having a generic 30-second pitch that I just bob off at everybody. And I think if you do that as a Christian entrepreneur and business owner, you'll be surprised just how many people actually want to buy from you more easily.
Can I share very quickly an anecdote about that? I used to have an initial piece of information that described my business in as succinctly a breakdown as possible. People would get in touch with me, ask me for more information. I would send them that initial information. 1 or 2 out of 10 of those inquiries would get back in touch and become a sales call and potentially a sale. Now, when someone gets in touch and makes an inquiry, I give them 0 information and simply ask if we could have a conversation where I could learn a little bit more about them and what they're looking to achieve. 9 out of 10 come, I would say that sounds wonderful and they'd love to have a chat. And about 9 or 10 out of 10 then come on board. So me thrusting my version of what I do at them doesn't work. Me inviting them to have a conversation and then me asking them about themselves really works. So the proof's in the pudding, or in my case, the dodging of the pudding.
Fantastic. Edward, thank you for being with us. This will be our last episode for a few weeks, because I'm heading off to Canada on a vacation with my dad. So we'll be back with you in a few weeks' time. But Edward, thank you for everything you bring from this and from helping us explore, the Bible into business. If you want to catch up with Edward and his weight loss coaching business, you'll find a link in the description below. If you want to catch up with me, you'll find my email address there. Email me and I'll get back to you when I get back from Canada. In July 2024. I just realized somebody might be listening to this in like 5 years' time. So in July 2024, I'll be back from Canada. And get in touch. But also leave your comments, subscribe, and leave your comments about how it is as a Christian you go about making sales whilst honoring his word. Thank you very much.